when this first happened, we were like, well, that's weird. As you know, Boeing is under investigation by the U.S. government right now. Things have gotten very bad for them because their planes keep falling apart. And there are all sorts of questions as to whether it's a function of it seems very likely that it's a function of both like antitrust type of stuff, but also a C-suite that is looking at the stock price as the exclusive metric as to the health of the company, because they equate the health of the company with their sort of the compensation. That's it. I mean, they have like sort of cottage industries within these big corporations, and their money gets made. It is not necessarily a function of the health of the company, the quality of the product. It's a function of what the stock price is, and there's a lot of different ways to juice a stock price. Anyways, there was a whistleblower who was giving information to the U.S. government and in suits, I think. He
was testifying to Boeing, and he was supposedly... So he did the
testifying to
Boeing within their own, I think, process. I don't think this was to the government, if I'm not mistaken. He was called to testify internally. So this is from Fortune magazine. This is a piece that was published over the weekend. In the action that brought Barnett across the table from Boeing's attorneys in Charleston, he was suing the plane maker in a so-called Air 21 case. His charge, Boeing had violated the U.S. Department of Labor statute stipulating that it's unlawful to retaliate against a whistleblower. Barnett was seeking compensation for allegedly being forced to retire 10 years before he planned to leave Boeing, getting blackballed from the promotions he deserved because of all this. And he had testified for something like 7 hours on that Thursday, and he had planned, according to his lawyer, to drive back home to Louisiana after his testimony at 5 p.m. But then the Boeing's lawyers took the position that no more depositions could be taken until Barnett completed his testimony, which meant that Barnett his stay was supposed to be extended.
He had to stay another night.
He had to stay another night. That night is the night that he was found dead in his car outside of the Holiday Inn where he was staying.
It was ruled a suicide by the police, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or at least initially.
They're assuming it's a suicide, but
they've taken any, if they've done any autopsy yet or whatnot. Plausible. Somebody who is, these court cases, this type of testimony, God knows, in the course of like being questioned by corporate lawyers in a corporation that you'd probably dedicated your life to, et cetera, can be very difficult and very rough. And we don't know what this whistleblower's state of the mind was before then. Sometimes people are, in a very vulnerable state emotionally. So none of that was implausible in any way whatsoever. But this is weird. ABC News News 4 South Carolina interviewed a close family friend of the Boeing whistleblower, John Barnett. Here is what that friend had to say.
I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way.
First tonight, our investigative reporter Ann Emerson has new information in the death of Boeing whistleblower John Barnett. A close family friend of Barnett says he predicted he might wind up dead, that a story could surface that he killed himself. But he told her, don't believe it. Ann?
Tessa, Barnett's family friend Jennifer said they had talked about this exact scenario playing out, but his words seemed like a premonition. He told her, don't ever believe it.
I knew John because his mom and my mom are best friends. And so over the years, get-togethers, birthdays, celebrations, and, whatnot, we've all got together and talked and, That's how we really know each other.
And when Jennifer needed help one day, Barnett came by to see her. They talked about his upcoming depositions in Charleston. Jennifer knew he filed an extremely damaging complaint against Boeing. He says the aerospace giant retaliated against him when he blew the whistle on unsafe practices. For more than 30 years, Barnett was a quality manager. He'd recently retired and moved back to look after his mom in Louisiana.
He wasn't concerned about safety because I asked him, I said, aren't you scared? And he said, and his voice and the way he would talk, no, I ain't scared. He said, but if anything happens to me, it's not suicide. You know, I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way. He loved life too much. He loved his family too much. He loved his brothers too much to put them through what they're going through right now.
And he basically told you not to believe it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Not true. He's got too much to do, likes breathing. And he did. He had a lot of plans of things that he wanted to do.
What do you think happened?
I think somebody got in there and made, money can buy anything nowadays, it seems like. And there's a lot of evil in this world. I think somebody didn't like what he had to say and wanted to shut him up and didn't want it to come back on anyone. So that's why they made it look like a suicide.
I mean, I don't know. Fascinating story. I imagine there are a lot of reporters who are working on it as we speak. But this is
what she has to say, right? It's not evidence. We don't necessarily, I mean, it's not like whatever dispositive of anything, but it's significant. And the timing of everything was fishy in and of itself. Then to have that said,
I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility either. Like, I don't have any definitive anything to say about like what happened here. I hope it gets thoroughly investigated.
Without a doubt.
I do think it's weird the psychic need that some people have to dismiss the possibility of anything fishy in these sorts of things, because I think we live in a real world where bad stuff does happen. So this should be treated with vigilance,
especially given the increased scrutiny on Boeing in these recent months and some of the technical issues with the planes, with the doors, with the security of their airplanes. This deposition was coming at a very inconvenient time for Boeing.
I mean, the stakes for Boeing. That's we're talking about stakes here.
The stakes for Boeing, and people.
Well, that's the thing that's I think hard to sort of like wrap your head around. It's sort of like it's hard to imagine anybody killing anybody for like, I'm going to get the insurance money. Or I'm going to get this. I mean, people do that. I have a tough time. And when you hear a story like this, you're like, well, it seems like it's really sort of hanging out there. I mean, it's almost like too obvious. And, from a timing perspective, why would you do it right in the middle of the testimony? Seems a little bit weird, too.
And his lawyer said that the testimony went incredibly well that day.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's odd, yeah. And people just like, these are the kinds of corporations that really are the movers and shakers of our society. Boeing, is not just the top manufacturer of commercial jets. Boeing is a top 5 weapons manufacturer that's contracted by the United States government. So the entanglement with our kind of shadier elements of our government is also a part of it.
And, not to downplay what happened to Barnett here, but being cavalier about quality control when you make airplanes for the world is pretty murderous kind of in its own way.
Yeah.
That concludes the phone call portion of our program, folks. Let's read some IMs and then we'll be out of here. Dick Turbin, oh my God, check out that video of Michael Rappaport taking dollars for Zionism on the phone in what looks like to be a hotel highway. There's no, I mean, I don't know if it's actually Rappaport. It certainly sounds like him and looks like him, but it's shot in such a way. I can tell you this, as someone who back in the day made multiple faux verite or mock documentary TV shows and movies. professionally. And including also directed I'm with Busey, which was a fake reality show. 13 episodes of that or 12 episodes of that.
That was it? Damn, I remember that. Seemed like it goes on for years.
I got news for you. It felt like I was involved in it for years. I can tell you, that was the longest, 6 months of my life. I can tell you that is contrived. Yeah. I can tell you it's contrived. I mean, it's quite obvious. It's just like the way the cameras are working and the way that the behavior is such, and et cetera, it's contrived. Now, whether it was, it seems like it was just Rappaport himself doing it as a way of either A, being funny, or B, maybe expressing some concern that there's somebody out there who might find out that, yeah, there's people. I mean, let me put it this way. I know for a fact that there are funds out there prior to October 7th who will offer grants to people in the arts who have demonstrated a positive perspective on Israel to do their work. Not necessarily about Israel, but to do, you want to develop a book? Here's some funds. You want to develop a one-person show? Here's some funds. I mean, I know that exists. No one has ever offered me that, but I am aware of people who have been involved in it. And it's very much like, it's not, you got to say this, and then you get that. There's none of that. These are people whose names you wouldn't even know.
Right.
It's just like, so, I mean, I don't know, but it's not real.
I bet they wouldn't need to give him much. I bet you Rappaport can be bought pretty cheap.
Yeah.